The Torah indicates that one of the reasons for the great flood of Noah's time was because of the Nephilim, yet it states that many of them survived the flood. How was that possible, and why did HaShem allow them to continue if they were one of the causes for that disaster? This is a genuinely fascinating and layered subject that sits at the intersection of Torah text, classical rabbinic commentary, and Second Temple literature. The Nephilim story of Torah identifies a real contradiction in the text. Genesis 6:4 states, "The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them." The phrase, "and also afterward," v'gam acharei kain, is the crux of the problem. If the flood was meant to cleanse the earth of this corruption, why do Nephilim appear again later, most notably as the giant clans encountered in Canaan, Bamidbar, Numbers 13:33, including Goliath's lineage? The Nephilim were not the primary cause. They were a symptom. Many commentators, including Rashi and Nachmanides, emphasize that the primary cause of the flood was the corruption of all flesh, ki hishchit kol basar, meaning widespread moral depravity, theft, chamas, and sexual immorality among humans. The Nephilim were a contributing, corrupting influence, not the sole reason. Hashem's decree was against humanity's sin. This matters because it reframes the question. The flood wasn't exclusively a destroy the Nephilim mission. They survived through the lineage of Ham, actually, his wife and their later children. A prominent rabbinic tradition holds that the Nephilim nature was transmitted genetically through the wives on the ark, particularly through Naamah, Ham's wife. Some midrashim suggest that one or more of the wives of Noah's sons carried the bloodline of the fallen ones, allowing the giant clans to re-emerge in Canaan generations later. This is explored in sources like Bereshit Rabbah and later Kabbalistic literature. Then we have to consider the Book of Enoch and its Second Temple tradition. While not canonical in Rabbinic Judaism, First Enoch was deeply influential in Second Temple thought, offers a different framework. It distinguishes between the spirits of the Nephilim, who, according to Midrashic, become disembodied demons after the flood. Also, Enoch's mentioning of the Watchers, who are imprisoned, not destroyed. Under this reading, the spiritual corruption survived the flood, even if the physical bodies perished, which is why evil re-emerged so powerfully afterward. This framework influenced later Jewish mystical thought. Another consideration is the Nephilim may refer to two different groups. Some traditional commentators and modern scholars argue that the post-flood Nephilim, referenced in Numbers 13:33, are not the same beings as Genesis 6, and that the spies were using the term rhetorically or hyperbolically to describe the giant Canaanite clans, Anakim, Rephaim, etc., perhaps because those clans reminded them of the legendary Nephilim, or because they were descended from them through the mechanism already described. From a theological standpoint, several commentators note that Hashem never promised to eradicate evil permanently through the flood, only to punish that specific generation. The Rainbow Covenant, Genesis 9, is notably a promise of restraint, not a guarantee of human or earthly perfection. The persistence of corrupting forces in the world is consistent with the Torah's broader framework that humanity must choose good in a world where evil remains a possibility. Finally, we have to look at the deeper theological point of the telling of this story. The Talmud in Sanhedrin and Nida, as well as Kabbalistic sources, particularly the Zohar, suggest that the flood purified the world, but could not fully purify the metaphysical roots of corruption, because those roots are tied to the ongoing spiritual drama between divine and fallen forces, something that won't be fully resolved until the Messianic era. In other words, the flood was a reset, not a final solution, which is precisely why the Torah's narrative continues with fresh cycles of human failure, divine patience, and redemption. It's a profoundly honest theology. The world was broken, it was partially repaired, and the work continues. You know what to do. Like, subscribe, and share. Thanks for watching or reading this study. Until next time, this is Shmuel ben Shlomi of Shmu's Views, wishing you shalom.